Hey there, my friends, and thanks a lot for being here on this video. My name is Spencer Hughes, and I have deconstructed from Christianity after having been one for 40 years of my life. I'm 54 as I record this, and that means I was a Christian for a very, very big part of my life and a long time by any definition. One thing I want to address in these longer form videos here on YouTube are some of these issues and arguments that I hear from current Christians and current believers in the God of the Bible. And one comment I want to kind of answer is one that I got on one of my social media posts and videos, and that is equating the snake with Satan, the snake being the snake in the Garden of Eden as Satan. Did you know that Genesis never makes that connection at all? The Bible never makes the connection, ever, that the snake in the Garden of Eden that tempts Eve into tempting Adam to take a bite of that delicious fruit was Satan, or even a demon, or a minion of Satan. There's no indication of that whatsoever. In fact, the strongest evidence, I think, to show that this is not the case, that this was just a talking snake somehow that ended up in the Garden of Eden. I don't know why it's the only snake in the history of mankind that's ever talked, and why that one snake had to lead to the downfall of mankind ultimately with its temptation. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I don't have most of the answers. But I do know that one big argument against this snake being Satan is the Word of God itself. God condemns, he punishes each of the characters here in turn. He tells Eve that your childbirth, and women from now on, their childbirth will be very, very painful because of your transgression against me. He tells Adam, well, I was going to have life be easy for you, but now you're going to have to toil and break a sweat and break your back working the fields, and so will future men as well, right? That's the implication, is that humanity has been cursed because of this original sin committed by Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis. That if they had just listened to God, none of this would have happened. Everything we suffer through today is because of original sin, which traces back to Adam and Eve. Follow me so far? So God punishes Eve and all future women. I guess all women for eternity have to pay for this eating of the fruit, which is so silly and such a huge overreaction, to say the least. Biggest overreaction, well, not the biggest overreaction of the Bible, but this God is such an overreactor. He is so reactionary. He needs anger management. He just flies off the handle all the time throughout the Bible, but we'll get to those in due time in other videos. Let me get back and stay focused here, right? So women are going to go through a painful childbirth. Men are going to have to work the fields and work the soil and break their backs and break a sweat and be miserable forever. And the snake doesn't get off easy either. The snake has been condemned to slither on its belly, which I think snakes do anyway. Although, if you believe in evolution, which I do, snakes originally probably had arms and legs, right? They walked on all fours. So they had limbs at one point, it's believed through evolutionary theory and the process of evolution, that snakes at one point did have legs. So maybe the snake had arms and legs, which isn't indicated in the Bible, but it's weird that God says, you shall slither on the earth from this time forward, and you will eat dust. Well, he got 1 out of 2 right. Snakes don't eat dust. I looked it up. There's not one species, I don't think, of snake anywhere in the world that eats dust. And then Christians will excuse that too and say, God meant like eat my dust, like the expression eat my dust, right? Eat dust. That's what he means, not like literal dust on the ground, dummy. There's excuses for everything. Believers will apologize every which way. It's so painful. I know, because I did it for 40 years. I was a big God apologist and Jesus apologist and Bible apologist. But what's interesting is, if this snake is in fact Satan, or a representation of the devil or whatever, then why would God have punished all future snakes, like billions and trillions of future snakes? Why would he have condemned them to slither on the ground? And he said that humans will have their heel on you, and you will bite their heel, and you're going to have a very, very kind of testy relationship and kind of antagonistic relationship with each other. Sorry, the dogs won't stop running around. But if I wait to do a video when the dogs aren't running around, I will never produce an ounce of content, I promise. If I wait for the dogs to be quiet, I will never do a video again, which would make some of you happy, I'm sure. So that's my best argument, and many Bible scholars share the same view, that it wouldn't make sense for God to condemn snakes for all of eternity, from this time forward in the Garden of Eden's chronology, to suffer and to be kind of these awful creatures that humans will grow to hate and despise, all because of the actions of this one snake, right? If it was in fact Satan, you would think God would punish Satan. God has plenty of opportunities in the Bible to punish Satan. He never does. To this point, he's never been eradicated. This all-powerful God can't eradicate the devil, who he created himself in the first place. Interesting, isn't it? So that's why I don't think, and most Bible scholars will agree, that the serpent has any connection with Satan at all. In fact, he probably was not Satan. It was just a talking snake somehow that ended up in this mythology. I guess it just sounded good to the people who wrote it at the time. It's not based in any reality, as you could say about most of the Bible and most of these stories that we would see clearly as myth if they were in Aesop's fables or if they were in the books of other religions, right? We would easily, as Christians and former Christians, say, oh, well, it's hooey if somebody else writes about a talking snake, but the Bible wrote about a talking snake, so it must be real. God, for whatever reason, had a talking snake in that garden. Well, he wanted mankind to fall. That's subject for another video as well. He wanted mankind to fall because he set up all the circumstances. It's like a parent leaving a loaded you-know-what on the table, bringing in their 4-year-old, and then the 4-year-old does something with the pew-pew, not really understanding not to touch it or understanding the meaning behind the parent's words to not touch it, and then does something horrible with it to himself or to others, and then saying it's the child's fault. No, it's the parent's fault. You set them up for failure by putting that loaded weapon on the table and bringing in a 3 or 4-year-old without any ability to restrain themselves, full of curiosity and wonder and wondering what's going on. And the minute you tell them not to do something, they're going to do it. This was a setup. But again, that's a subject for another video. This video, in conclusion, is about how I do not believe, and most scholars don't believe either, that the snake in the Garden of Eden was the devil or any type of personification of the devil at all. It was just an animal that wanted to tempt Eve and Adam into eating that fruit for whatever reason. But if you read the rest of the story in Genesis, God's punishment of all future snakes would make no sense whatsoever. It would be like taking it out on all these snakes that didn't do anything wrong, right? All because of this one snake. It wouldn't make sense if it were the devil. He would just punish the devil and leave snakes alone. Because I've had snakes as pets. They're wonderful creatures. They're very important to the ecosystem. We can't really be without snakes, I don't think. I'm Spencer Hughes. Thanks a lot for watching.